What is up, YouTube? I am Taylor. Welcome back to my channel. Today is Wednesday, January 26th. It is a balmy 7 degrees out according to my fancy watch. And I read some comic books today. And I'll try and be cranky. I will, I promise, because I'm tired of these things. Cranky comic book reviews. But it was actually a pretty good week for comics, so I might have to manufacture some crankiness just for you guys. That's not true. I'm sure I can find things to complain about. And as always, we start with the worst comic. We're going to end with the best. And we'll go from there. A house maintenance thing, a few maintenance things. Please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe bell. I've got a new show on Mondays called Unboxing Match, where I do a mystery box swap. The latest one you can find on my channel. It's pretty fun. I did it with Adrian APM. I got ones coming up every week. And I have new merchandise showing up on my website at taylorwinder.com. This one's not on there yet, but it's a sneak preview. You can buy a broke hat. And if you buy the broke hat, I won't be broke. Then it'll be ironic. Right now it's accurate. But if you want it to be ironic, you can go buy some. Yeah. All right. So, we're going to start off with New Burn. No, wait. Hang on. New Men. Sorry, that was a different one. From, where the hell is this from? Action Lab Danger Zone Comics? I don't know. And this was one that was a random one on my pull list. And I'm sure the description of it sounded great. In execution, I don't know. It starts with a flashback. Or no, it starts with an action event. And then before the action gets resolved, it flashes back, which is a kind of a common trope. I get it, which is there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. I just have no idea what's going on in this book. There's something, it's set in the future. There's parenting laws in place where you're not allowed to leave kids at home alone. And then there's also the idea that sometimes superheroes get made from kids. It's kind of a muddy mess. And I get that they're trying to leave it vague and leave it where you're supposed to, like, be interested enough to read the next issue, but I'm just not interested enough to read the next issue. I just don't give a rat's ass. It was just kind of confusing enough where I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll read it digitally. It's not even a trade paperback buy for me. It's just kind of like, I don't know, I just don't. There's nothing in here that was truly unique or nothing in here that grabbed me enough to give this to warrant it. There's too much shit out there on the shelves as it is nowadays. I mean, this stack of books will prove that. And you really have to be good to stand out, and this is just not good, and it didn't stand out. I do like giving indie books a shot. I like to give them because I think, there's always potential for a diamond in the rough. This is just the rough. Sorry, it's just not that great. All right, speaking of sort of indie books, and I don't call this indie anymore because this is James Tynion and other folks. It's just goddamn boring. And I've said this before, and I might drop this title. House of Slaughter. This is number 4. James Tynion, Delaware on the roughs, and then there's another writer and another artist who are doing the heavy lifting. This is sort of a love story of Aaron Slaughter and the history of Aaron Slaughter. It's just, the problem is, none of it's interesting. There's nothing really like revelatory in here, nothing that's pushing any of the plot forward. It's been, for the most part, treading water for 4 issues. It's like, I guess you're supposed to be really interested in watching a very slow love story develop, but they're not even doing that in an interesting manner. And it's not even a love story. It's just kind of like a physical attraction story for the most part. There's no real reason that these characters that are given for the main characters on the cover to fall in love, other than they're roommates. And that's kind of it. And so it's just, I don't know, man. I think I'm done with this. I think I'm done. I just do not care. Like, it's just not that interesting. It's just a boring goddamn story. Maybe it'll read better collected. I mean, Something That's Killed the Children definitely reads better collected than it does on single issues, and maybe this will too. But as of right now, there's just not a whole lot fucking happening in this, and I am just bored off my ass with it. So, there we go. Am I going to do this? Yeah, we're going to do this in this order. Honestly, yeah. All right. I do this on the fly, and I adjust things, and a lot of these are kind of in the middle of the pack. So when they're in order from worst to best, take it with a grain of salt this week because they're all kind of about the same. They're all mostly fine, but harmless and not exceptional. There's a few exceptional ones, and I'll talk about those. But for the most part, this is just all kind of mediocre mess in the middle. Like Peacemaker. Disturbing the Peace. Okay, the Peacemaker show? If you've not been watching it, it's fantastic. It's everything you want out of a James Gunn show. It's got a sad protagonist that's lonely and disturbed and, trying to figure out what's right in life and, like, realizing he's questioning all his values and everything he grew up with, and it's still funny and awkward and over the top and violent and everything. And then I'm like, oh, there's going to be a one-shot written by Garth Ennis. he could do all those things. I don't always love Garth Ennis, but he can definitely do over the top violence. He can hit some emotional beats when he wants to, and like he can tell an interesting story. Or he can do this. The cover is great. The story, no. It's Black Label. None of it lines up with the Peacemaker show, which I didn't expect it to. I just expected it to at least be over the top and touch on some things in that regard because it's a fairly violent character. And there's violence in this book. Don't get me wrong. But it's all told in a matter-of-fact way from the Peacemaker on a park bench. And it's just dull. It's just the criminal sin of being fucking boring. And I was, bored reading this. I'm like, what the hell? Like, when are we going to get to the good shit? You never get to the good shit. There's supposed to be some grand revelation at the end where you're like, oh my god, that's the event that turned the Peacemaker into the Peacemaker. Yeah, it's a shrug at best. And yeah, it doesn't have any of the usual Garth Ennis flair. It's Black Label, so none of it's in continuity. It's just one of those, like, they made this because the book is out, and Garth Ennis phoned it in, and it's just fucking dull. Part of my language. Actually, not part of my language. You're watching my channel. I swear every once in a while. Whoopsie. All right, speaking of things that really don't need to exist, and I really wish for better, honestly, we get Devil's Reign, number 3. Is this number 3 of 6? Yeah. This is just Civil War all over again. There's nothing really new in here, except for it's Kingpin instead of Tony Stark and instead of government. And, like, yeah, I mean, was there anything in here that's really even worth remembering? I have to page through it to look. It's really well drawn by Chichetto, and there's a lot of talkiness, and Doc Ock is up to some fairly interesting stuff. But it's just kind of one of those. It's not. There's nothing really new in here. It's just touching on a lot of familiar story beats, and we've seen it all before. The heroes are all outlaws. Okay, they've been outlaws. They had the Kamala's Law. They had the whatever the hell it's called. There was a bunch of nothing in here is new. It's just the heroes are on the run from the government. There's little nuggets where it might take interesting story stuff, but thus far it hasn't. I mean, it needs to start going somewhere and do something. Anything. Please. Chip. Be entertaining. Dance for me. Nothing. But I don't know. Normally I like Zdarsky. This just isn't cutting it for me. It's not that great. Alright. Normally I like Jed McKay. He's one of the bright, shining spots in Marvel. And then you have this. Death of Doctor Strange, number 5. This is like the wrap-up, right? This is where, you realize Doctor Strange is super clever and outwits everybody and has done it all. And it's written like that happened. And it's written like there's grand revelations and spells and weirdness. But the way it's done is just, that's not that interesting. That's not that clever. That's not even that great an ending to this story. It's another shrug for me. It's like, okay. Like I like the setup of this story. I like the first couple of issues. It's just kind of like this. I'm like, oh, it's ending with a whimper. And I know that's not how you say whimper, but you know what? Deal with it, people. Deal with it. It's just, another boring ending to a Marvel miniseries. Seriously. It's all set up for the next thing, and you know they're going to have a regular Doctor Strange series coming along because the Doctor Strange movie's coming along. I'm sure they're probably going to coincide with that. And he's left in a predicament at the end of this, so you'll have to get himself out of some predicament. I just hope it's a much more clever way to do it than this was. Had an interesting premise, clever idea, shit ass ending. All right. Stray Dogs, Dog Days number 2. This is the part 2 of 2. This is the prequel to the original Dog Days series. It's not really necessary. It doesn't really add a whole lot. It's little vignettes of how the dogs ended up in the situation they ended up in Dog Days and Stray Dogs number 1. So it's cute. It's fine. It's just kind of like, okay. It's another one of those I wish they were telling a whole new story. They're not. I mean, this just feels like a retread for the most part of everything. Well drawn, well executed enough, but it needed to tell a new story. I understand you're trying to have the popularity of the first one and keep it going for a bit, but just take a little bit of a chance, do something new, have a new arc, have something. Just not this. This is just it's another shrug for me. Like a lot of this week, honestly, it's like, okay, I'm shrugging my way through most of the books. Like Avengers Forever number 2, alternate universe Avengers, written by Jason Aaron and Cooter and other people. I don't know. There's like 18 people on the credits here. I don't remember who did what. And and I don't even remember who the main villain is. It's been long enough. Like there's like a guy torturing Ghost Rider for the main part of the series, and I couldn't even tell you who the main bad guy is. Like I think it's sort of maybe the Hulk, maybe combination of Hulk and something else. Maybe I can't. I really don't know. I didn't go back and reread the first one. I maybe should, but like it sort of picks up in a different spot from the first issue. Anyways, that much I remember, and it's just focusing. Like it's sort of torture porn for most of this issue, but it's mostly just focusing on how great Robbie Reyes is as far as being a ghost or not Ghostbuster, whatever, Ghost Rider, busting. It's Ghost Rider busting. That's what this is. It's an episode of Ghost Rider busting, an issue of Ghost Rider. It's fine. It's there's whatever. It also needs to start going somewhere. I might give it one more, maybe. This one's really on the fence for me. Actually, I might. You know what? No, I'm done. I don't care. It wasn't enough for me to give a shit. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm apologizing to you people. It's just there's not enough meat on this for like, and it's not an interesting enough idea to grab me. Like Dark Ages, Tom Taylor, that's an interesting enough mini to like keep me going. Avengers Forever, nah, no, I don't care. Speaking of Borderline not caring, and this pains me to say, it needs to start going somewhere too. It's better. It's still solid enough. It's Black Hammer Reborn. Jeff Lemire with art by Malachi Ward. I really, 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 I know I said this last issue, I really, really miss Caitlin Yarsky's interior artwork. Her covers are great. Malachi Ward's art is okay on the interior. It's just kind of, it doesn't really have any resonance. It's like weirdly cartoony, but not quite underground enough. It seems like a kind of a limp approach to artwork. And this is also still dealing with I can't remember the character's name. It's been one of those weeks, people, where like it's a lot of these issues are just sort of forgettable. And this is like the multiverse of madness kind of strangeness with Colonel Weird. Yeah, this is like a lot Colonel Weird in a weird situation, but it's not all that weird. I get what Lemire's going for. And it's interesting enough that I will keep it up. And I trust Lemire to like wrap this up in an interesting way. But the past couple issues have just not been that. It's kind of been a lull in the story. And part of it is I just don't think the Colonel Weird character is all that great. I had potential. It's sort of an Adam Strange sci-fi homage and an homage like Golden Age sci-fi characters. It's just not done that interestingly in here, especially like the original Black Hammer run. The character is more interesting, even in the Colonel Weird 4-issue miniseries, a little more interesting. And here it's just not so much. And using Colonel Weird as the device that kind of moves the plot along has been done before in Black Hammer too. And I was hoping he was going to go a different approach, but it doesn't seem like it. So, it's fine. All right. Yeah. Okay. You know what? The next we got 5 left, and these are actually pretty good. So I'm gonna get cheerfulier, more cheerful. Words. They are hard. Robin, what the hell number is this? 10. Number 10. Josh Williamson with Cruz on the artwork. This is after the Lazarus Island thing, and it's sort of a mind fuck for Robin. There's a going back in the past, kind of maybe, or it might just all be in his head. There's Ra's al Ghul's mom, who is Robin's grandma, who's about as nice as you expect from a Ra's al Ghul family member, and you learn kind of what's up with the Robin family tree. Look, it's the family tree issue. It's just a lot of fun. I was wondering where it was gonna go after the tournament which is also kind of like a Mortal Kombat style tournament on this island. That's wrapped up, and now we're in the next set of things, and it looks like it's gonna be Robin dealing with his family and Ra's al Ghul and like the new character of it's Ra's al Ghul's grandma, but I think she's called Mother Soul. Not her first appearance, by the way, so do not spec on this issue. I mean, you can go ahead. I don't give a shit. Spec on whatever you want, but like this is not the one you want to hunt down. You want the one a couple issues ago, if that's what you're specking on. But still, I would recommend just picking up all the Robins. It's a solid one. It's a probably 5+ near mint minus if I'm going by that ranking scale, which is kind of a stupid way to rank comics, but I do it because that's what I do. Yeah, it's been entertaining throughout. So Robin's still entertaining for me. I dig it, and it's not bad. All right, next we've got. You know what? I'm going to switch these. Ice Cream Man number 28. This is entomology, which is kind of the study of language, not entomology, which is the study of insects. They're very close to each other, word-wise, apparently. And, yeah, which is interesting because the previous issue of this was dealing with an insect, and this is dealing with language. and it is sort of tying together, and you're sort of starting to see these nuggets that the writer and the artist are leaving as far as like there's probably an end game in sight to this story, and I think we're heading there. But in the meantime, there's W. Maxwell Prince is still telling a pretty interesting story each issue. This is not the strongest of the bunch, but it is still not bad. You could probably pick up any of these Ice Cream Man stories. I know this because I did not start at the beginning. I have not read the first like 20 some issues of Ice Cream Man. I'm going to at some point. It's on my list because I want to go back and reread it. I think it's probably going to be pretty excellent because all of these have been pretty entertaining. This is not the strongest of the bunch, but it is still, as far as being an anthology series, I think a remarkable feat where each issue is at a fairly high level and fairly interesting. And that's where I'm putting this one. Fairly interesting. It is not necessarily fantastic, and it's not necessarily an essential one, but it's still a solid one and done, sort of creepy, kind of horror, not really, possibly adventure, a little bit of Indiana Jones thrown into this one just for the hell of it, and some language stuff. Plus, it's a cool cover. Probably. I didn't read it. Reading's hard. All right. Next, we have Thor 21, one of the spec books everyone's specking on this week. It's the first full appearance of the God of Hammers. I got to tell you, the first real appearance is probably Journey into Mystery 83. No spoilers, but yeah, whatever. It's Donny Cates doing Donny Cates. Like, you know, there's this, like, people call it the bad boy of comics. I don't know. I think he has some clever ideas, and this is a kind of a clever idea. Whether or not it turns anything, I don't know. I doubt it. But this issue is what I want out of Thor for the most part. It's an action romp. It's a lot of fighty, beady-uppy kind of stuff. It's Thor being kind of stupid and getting his ass whooped. And it's got Odin in there. The part where it sort of drags it down is still the Odin-Thor kind of sadness in here. Like, there's a melancholy tinge to this all, and there's a theme that's been kind of working through this Thor book of daddy issues and neglect. And this is no different. And it's a little bit... It's about as subtle as getting hit on the head with Mjolnir. See what I did there? I tied it in because I'm an expert reviewer, people. I made a book about Mjolnir and I turned into him. Yeah, never mind. It's a good one. It's great. Whether or not this is actually going to be worth a shit as a spec, I don't know. All of Donny Cates' specs always pan out, right? But it's fun. It's more fun than the last arc was. The last couple of filler issues. At least it feels like we're kind of sort of getting somewhere now again. And, you know, there's a setup at the end of this where the character's back. I don't know how the character got in that place in the first place, so I'm not caught up on all the Thor in the past, but still, solid, better than the past. Nick Klein's art is great. And we're good. All right, 2 left. We got Saga number 55. This is the re-picking up, the coming off of hiatus, the start anew. The second half of Saga. Apparently it's going to go 108 issues-ish, and this is right about the halfway point. This is a double-sided issue with 3 whole dollars. This is Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples. Full disclosure, I have not read all of the first half of Saga. I need to, because I read the first couple, and I read when they first came out, and then they got water damage, so I no longer own them, so I'm out of all that money. Thank you, water and life and my choices. And this is a couple years after, apparently, the second arc. So there's things in here I don't know what the hell's going on. But if you've read any of it, or if you've read a synopsis, there's enough in here that I think it's entertaining. And if you're okay with being a little bit confused and not knowing with some of the characters and who they are or how they quite fit in yet, it's not a bad jumping on point. Because it's a giant issue. It's an action-packed, bright story. Well, yeah, there was that was not how I was going to end that sentence. But it's action-packed. It's bright. It's a romp. It's not necessarily delightful. There's bad stuff that happens. There's some nudity in here. There's some pro-sex stuff and all that kind of thing. So if that's not your bag, don't pick this one up. But also probably don't watch my channel because you never know when I'm going to take my pants off. I'm not taking my pants off. You're welcome in advance for that. But yeah, really fun. Almost made the book of the week, honestly. Just because it's like, oh, like I did remember reading enough of the first part to get a general idea of what's going on. And it does have the first appearance of my favorite character, or a reappearance of one of my favorite characters in all of Sagadom that I've read, and which is not all of it. Again, great. But, yeah. It's a good one, folks. It's a good one. And I dig Fiona Staples' art. I know she's not for everybody, but I like it. I do think it's got a little bit chunkier and like thicker line style, and a little bit like looser than I recalled it on the first part of Saga, and I don't know if that's a bad thing. It's just what I kind of felt on this one. So, All right, and then you know how I like to buy a first issue of indie books and like see if they're any good and like take a chance, and sometimes it pays off and sometimes it doesn't. Well, to bookend it, on the other end of things, we have Duel #1 by Bliss on Tap Publishing, who I have never heard of. This is written by, I think it's written by Alex McCormick and art by Curtis Martins. I could be backwards on that. Let me just see. Like they have the name in the credits, but okay. Art and cover by Alex McCormick, and it's written by Curtis Martins. So this is probably going to be turned into, or optioned if it hasn't been already. It just has that feel to it where you're like, oh, that would probably make a Netflix show. In the future, dueling is online. You can challenge somebody to a duel. And if they're in this part of this dueling network, they have a couple days to accept your duel and fight you to the death. It's not necessarily legal. It's not necessarily, and it's kind of frowned upon, but there's a lot of like things that this is touching on, like stand your ground laws and self defense laws and that kind of stuff. But it's also just tells a fairly clever little story that in this issue could be self-contained. I don't know if it is. I'm not sure if there's gonna be more of this. I haven't looked, but for $5, this is my most interesting read of the week. It's not perfect, and it's a you kind of can sort of expect where it's going to end up. But the how it gets there is interesting enough for me, and it was an interesting enough idea, well drawn, well paced. And yeah, it's my book of the week. For an indie book, for a writer I've never heard of and an artist I've not followed before, I was pretty impressed, and I dug it. And I know it's gonna be a hard one to find because I know it's like not heavily ordered and stuff. But if you get a chance to read it online, or if you can find it in the wild, I'd say pick it up because I think it's a unique thing. Kind of reminds me of what I've understood The Purge to be, or things like that. Or like murder's legal for a day. Never actually watched those movies because I just don't give a shit. But in a comic form, not quite the same idea, but sort of that. I think it fits in that wheelhouse. Yeah, give Duel a try. You might dig it. And that's what I got. And it's, I don't know, not a bad week, really. Decent stack. I know it was a little, said it was going to be cranky. I tried my best to be cranky for you people. No, whatever. I'm particular about my comics, and I want them all to be fantastic. And if there's issues, I will point them out. Maybe I should just change my channel to comic book issues. I think that's already taken. I don't know, whatever. In the meantime, I'll stick with using my name, so you can stalk me on the internet. It's not that interesting. I don't even post my Wordle scores for you people, because you don't need to know. You don't need to know how this brain works for wordling. All right, let me get out of here. And as always, don't be a dick. Even if you can't solve the Wordle of the day. See ya.